So here I'm with right now Max Civili in Rome, and he's a journalist who's going to discuss with us today about the situation in Piombino, a coastal village in Tuscany, about 40,000 residents. It's about 100 miles or so east of Florence. And for the last few weeks, the people there, the residents, have been in an uproar, demonstrations, protests, the whole thing. About a regasification plant. That's the best way to describe it, as a floating petrochemical plant. It's almost the size of a tanker, I guess. And it's parked, or it's going to be parked outside the port there. And the people don't want it. And so Max is here to talk to us today about it. And Max, it looks like there's been demonstrations going on for weeks now. Is it still as intense as it was before?
Look, we already had a dozen of protests so far since April, and yes, it's pretty intense. The LNG project introduced by the government is worrying many residents there, even though so far we only have an unreasonable plan implemented by the Draghi government, by a government which is not representative of the Italian electorate, by the way.
Yeah.
And we have the purchase of a gigantic ship called Golar Tundra. It's a massive 300-meter long regasification unit that the government wants to place right in the middle of the small port of Piombino. A move that is potentially very dangerous for the safety of tens of thousands of people, highly polluting, and also uneconomic. Furthermore, it's hard to believe that there's a gas shortage in Italy when the country's largest energy company, Eni, a few days ago reported massive profits of over 7 billion euros between January and June this year, while soaring energy prices have been the driving force of the cost of living crisis that Italians are going through. So it's a very complicated situation. But if you allow me, Truby, to get back to the regasification plant in a second, and all the implications, I just wanted to explain how crucial this fight is for the residents of Piombino and for the Italians at large. Because Truby, here in Italy, we've been in a state of emergency for the past 2 years and 5 months. Practically since the start of the pandemic in 2020, March 2020. And even now that the emergency is over, we are in a substantial state of emergency, fearing that our energy, even our water, will be rationed. And we had state of emergency for every sort of reasons, like for water emergency, drought emergency, health emergency, energy emergency. You name a reason for an emergency, we had it. But believe me, the real emergency right now in Italy is very much a democratic one. As you probably are aware, a democratically elected government was toppled in the middle of the COVID crisis in February last year without any logical reason. And a bunch of politicians, including former Prime Minister Renzi, decided that the financial and geopolitical interests of the current US administration and the multinationals supporting it should prevail over those of Italy. At any cost, even at the cost of seriously, irrevocably damaging the country. And that's very important people understand this, that the situation right now is very much in control of a government that has taken over the legislative powers from the parliament. And for the past 17 months, since 16 months, the government has introduced an endless number of decrees. A decree is a government provision that has the force of law. And through these decrees, which were approved through 55 confidence motions, 55 votes of confidence over 60 months. Through these decrees, the government has changed the face of Italy. Yeah. This is really, really worrying.
Yeah. Well, we bring up that fact that the prime minister, and he just resigned, I guess, Mario Draghi. He was not elected per se. It was almost like the parliamentarians had, in essence, selected him. He came from no political party. There was no election. It was just He was
Absolutely.
appointed by the by virtue of the president of Italy.
Well, you probably know that Mario Draghi was former Goldman Sachs managing director,
Right.
the former European Central Bank president. So Mario Draghi was appointed as prime minister, and he is an executive. Wasn't established as a political executive, but basically he had to carry out the vaccination campaign and make sure that the funds from the EU recovery plan would reach Italy. Complete opposite. The Draghi government has turned the country upside down, has introduced structural reforms, which, according not only to myself, but to many journalists and analysts, will reshape in a yet more oppressive manner the economy and affect the socioeconomic fabric of the country for many, many years to come. And I get back to Piombino now and its fight against the regasification plants, because the issue is very much connected to what I just said about Draghi, to this wave of, let me say, how can I call it, authoritarianism that has swept Italy since February last year. The government's ultimate act against freedom, the final chapter of this tragic farce, sees Piombino again as a potential victim. There is a provision approved last week, concealed in an aid package, once again approved without any parliamentary debate. It's a provision that allows the government itself to do what it likes with Italian soil in the name of national strategic interest. The government can today confiscate whatever areas falling under the loose definition of national strategic interest and give it to private companies on the condition that an investment worth at least 300 million euros is made in that area. And this explains why the struggle carried out by the people of Piombino is crucial for the freedom and for the safety of all Italians. Under the pretext of new emergency, the government is stripping Italians' rights away, dismantling the welfare state, selling out public assets, and Piombino is one of the last bastions of resistance against this bunch of how do you call it?
Yeah, what you're saying is startling, actually. It's amazing that, because there's no democratic oversight. I mean, what you're saying basically is the representatives. That's the whole idea of Italy is a republic, of course, or a parliamentarian government, to have parliamentarian representatives to pass laws, do these sorts of things. That's pretty much not gone, but it's awfully weakened. That's for sure.
It is very worrying, and unfortunately, I don't know where people get the information about Italy. I guess from mainstream newspapers.
Right.
But many things have changed over the past 10 years in the country, and over the past 2 years, things have changed at a much faster pace.
Yeah, somebody just sent me a video. It was a food line in Milan, of all places. That shocked me. It was a massive, long line of people because they couldn't eat. They were starving, and they were in line to get food, and that was very surprising. And I posted that as well, and people were amazed by that. And it's just so much is happening right now in Italy. It's very tough for people here in the United States to understand what's going on.
Absolutely, absolutely. Poverty is on the rise in Italy. It's been a constant trend over the past 10, 15 years.
Right.
And it's getting worrying. And believe me, we're going to have a hot autumn of protest with people simply not being able to get a job or being paid peanuts for like 3 or 4 euros an hour to get a temp job. It's really, really worrying.
Well, Piombino, I mean, they had steel. Speaking about unemployment and people not working in Piombino, it was a place of steel factories at one point in time, I guess, and those closed, correct? And so now you have it's been an area that's been adversely affected by the deindustrialization of Italy and Europe, what have you. So it's been tough for them to be in the beginning. It's been tough, and now with this regasification plant there in their port, it must be very harrowing for them.
Absolutely, Piombino is a post-industrial steel-making city. which has a small port, which focuses on mostly on transiting tourists. Piombino is second in Italy for a total number of passengers each year. It's about 2.5 million transiting tourists, which is quite a big figure. And of course, it also focuses on what remains of the steel-making settlements that back in the old days provided about 9, 10, 11,000 citizens with employment. Of course, the situation is completely changed. The steel-making settlements now only work at a very little proportion compared to the past, and now this regasification plant can give another major blow to Piombino's economy, as the fishing activities in the port can be seriously affected. Also, tourism can be seriously affected, but Piombino residents are also very upset because of the lack of transparency on the side of the government. Nobody was informed about this regasification plant project until March this year. This is just a top-down initiative, a project imposed from above without any consultation with local authorities, without any preliminary analysis. And this lack of transparency on the side of the government has made the people of Piombino go ballistic. There's also a number of issues around the purchase of the ship that have to be clarified. This regasification plant. Some journalists say that there was another Swedish ship that could have been bought at a much more profitable price. Many have noticed that this on sale documents, it appears that the purchase wasn't made by Snam, which is Italy's largest gas company, but by a company with a similar name, Snam FSRU, where FSRU stands for Floating Storage and Regasification Unit, which is a company recently established with a registered capital of just 10,000 euros. So this fact, of course, has generated confusion and raised suspicion that there is something murky, something not clear in the way Snam is operating for the government. How can a company with such a small registered capital buy a vessel for 350 million euros?
When you mentioned the lack of transparency, the mayor of mayor of Piombino, he didn't know anything about this until it was just announced, I guess, or whatever it was, and so the people didn't know about it either.
No, the local authority. Well, actually, to tell you the truth, the regional government knew about it. The regional government is very much aligned with the government. It's the Democratic Party. Eugenio Gianni, regional governor, is considered very close to the government and very much in line with the government's position. But at a very local level, there wasn't any consultation, and residents fear that the regasification plants, without any proper analysis, will put not only the economy, will affect not only the economy, but will put their lives at risk. And it's easy to understand why.
Is the ship? Let me interrupt you real quick. Where's the ship now? Is the Golar Tundra? Is that there?
Golar Tundra. The Golar Tundra is, according to vesselfinder.com, is right now in the middle of the Red Sea. Actually, not in the middle of the Red Sea. I had a look a few minutes ago. It's in the south part of the Red Sea, and not far from Qatar. And so it's basically doing what it is supposed to do, carrying LNG gas. So right now it's still far away from Italy. And
when is the government saying that it's going to arrive there in Piombino? When are they telling people that it's going to arrive there?
Look, it's not easy to answer this question. Let's say that an agreement should be finalized by the end of October, and it's going to be really complicated to reach an agreement by the time. But if everything goes according to plan, the Golar Tundra should be there soon after the end of October, and being working in, let's say, maybe mid-April or May, if everything goes according to plan.
So it could arrive there this fall, and it could be up and going. I guess
it's gonna take time to set it up, and also you can imagine this 300-meter long ship in the middle of a small port, in the middle of a small port, and let me tell you that a study carried out by a professor from the University of Pisa, very recent study, has found that the capacity of the ship is 170,000 cubic meters of liquefied natural gas. Can you imagine if there's an explosion of this plant?
That would be like, I can't imagine. It'd be devastating.
This professor estimates that they would be like 50 times more powerful than that of an atomic bomb without the radiation.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing.
It would really not only kill thousands of people, but it would, a big chunk of Tuscany.
And they're just going to park it. I mean, the plan is to park it. I think we're not talking a mile away or a half mile away. This is going to be, for our standards, just maybe 900 feet or whatever outside of the port. It's not going to be too far from where people live and where they work. Everything,
Homes and the inhabited areas are about 500, 600 meters away from the ship.
Yeah.
And the prospect of an accident is not unlikely. It's not unlikely. If you think that in such small port, you would have a relentless activity with smaller ships carrying LNG to the large ship for regasification. Then you would have tourist ships carrying tourists, fishing boats, and gas leaks could happen anytime. Listen to this, Truby. 2 major accidents have occurred at regasification plants in Norway and Cuba in the past 12 months. In Norway, last September, a fire broke out at a Melkoja liquefied natural gas plant. The fire was caused by an oil leak, and of course there was a lack also of maintenance, cost-cutting measures. But in Cuba, a couple of days ago, a fire set off by a lightning stroke at an oil storage facility, and 4 explosions and flame killed a man, injured over 120 people, and left 17 firefighters missing. And yet you want to have a regasification plant in the middle of a small port.
Yeah.
In my view, this is madness.
Yeah. Why didn't they put it on? I mean, something like that normally I would think would be on the surface someplace, maybe some sort of industrial site that's zoned for that purpose, away from people or what have you. The idea of it floating and the ocean is surprising in of itself. I guess it must be, why do they choose it to do it this way versus maybe doing it a different way? Perhaps it might be safer for folks.
You know what? Italy already has other regasification plants.
Yeah.
2 of them are offshore, so far from inhabited areas. And a third one was built in mainland, in Panigaglia, in the 70s. That happened in the 70s, 50 years ago. We're talking about a small center in northwestern Liguria, which is a place, Panigaglia, where residents have staunchly opposed an extension of the plant.
Oh, I see.
Okay, so but even today, residents in Panigaglia live in constant fear of a massive explosion. But it is the legacy of another political era, and there wasn't the same awareness of that we have today. So why they want to build? They want to place a regasification plant. I think it's for economic reasons. Consider that about 9 years ago, the government wanted, the Renzi government wanted to build a pipeline from Algeria to Tuscany.
Right,
That was very, very expensive. It will cost like 8 billion euros. This operation here, this regasification plant in Piombino would cost what, 1/8.
I see.
Less.
Right.
Yeah. So I think it's in the end, it's money. It's about money.
Right. Now, do you think they would have done this if not for the current war between Russia and Ukraine and all those sanctions and that's been placed by the European Commission? I mean, is this what's driving this, do you think?
Well, that's a geopolitical question.
Yeah.
I think they would have not done it. They would probably the conflict in Ukraine and the fact that the government has opted to cut altogether Italy's dependence on Russian gas, has had a huge weight on the decision. Consider that it is true that Italy has to offset a big chunk of its gas supply. Russia used to supply 40% of the total gas in Italy.
Right.
But it's not. You're not going to offset that with regasification plants. So no way you're going to offset that.
Right, of course, right. Well, this just goes down to the point where the village there, it's right there on the coast, of course. And you mentioned about fishing, and they had, I think it's one of the first fish farms that have been in Italy, my assumption. And I mean, if there was a leak, they're using the chemicals to turn it from liquid gas into to its original form. To use the toxicity that they're using, if that's leaks, what have you, that would kill probably any type of fish farm or any type of fish industry for the foreseeable future. So it could be quite devastating. Yeah,
absolutely. From an environmental point of view, it would be a disaster. Can you imagine an open cycle regasification plant which has a daily release of hectoliters of chloride into water?
Yeah.
Can you imagine the consequences for marine life in that area?
Well, this is what you use for your swimming pool to kill the bacteria. So I'm assuming that it's going to be more intense than that and just kill everything.
I know, but you have people, you have villages there, you have tourists, you have you have people bathing, people swimming. That area. And what's funny, that Italy seemed to have embraced a so-called ecological transition to renewable energy sources. It even has a ministry called that way, Ministry of Ecological Transition. That the construction of such a plant would take the country back to 50 years ago, when there wasn't any environmental awareness.
Right. Well, it's amazing. Well, it is quite harrowing. I mean, I grew up in Northeast New Jersey, just a few miles away from a whole set of petrochemical plants, and one did explode. I was a child at that time, and I remember the house. And we must have been maybe 10 miles away, I guess, and the house shook. That's how extensive that explosion was. And I'll never forget that. It was you could look outside my window from my bedroom, you could see the flames and the smoke from far distance away. So if anything like that happened, an explosion with this sort of plant, you can tell. I know from personal experience that it would be quite extensive.
Yeah, it must be terrible. And by the way, I also lived for a short time in Jersey City. I don't know if you in Jersey City, but for a short time in my life, I lived on the other side of the Holland Tunnel. I kept saying I was living in New York, but the truth is that I was a poor student, a university student. I was living in Jersey City. Yeah.
Well, that's good. That's all changed, of course. It's now I was visiting there recently. You see a lot of tall buildings now on the New Jersey side. Almost equal to the New York side in some ways, the size and scope of the buildings, and that's changed a lot. So well, it's a very harrowing situation there in Italy, and I hope you keep us updated about it and what's going on. And I just hope that they're able to find some solution to this where, all parties are happy, but mostly the residents. Our heart and sympathy goes with them, and our support goes with them, and we just hope that it can be resolved in their favor.
Yeah, definitely. On a positive note, residents are very much united in their protest. There is a across-the-board political support, and it's quite unprecedented in Italy that you go to a rally. I was at a rally on July 30th, and I saw flags from the far-right groups, Brothers of Italy, and flags from the Communist Party, from the Space Union USB. That is really unprecedented. I've never seen such flags flying together. It was really
it's extreme. It's extreme political that seems to be really out there. Yeah. Well, that's quite fascinating. Well, I want to thank you very much for joining us today, all the way from Italy. It's in the evening there. It's the afternoon here, and just please keep us updated as to what's going on in Piombino. We wish everybody the best. We hope it all is resolved in their favor, and they can go on with their lives and escape this controversy.
Thanks, Truby, to your time. Can I say something in Italian to my Italian emigrati? Grazie mille per avermi ascoltato. Spero che seguiate tutti gli updates, tutti gli aggiornamenti da Piombino. Oh, by the way, we are producing a documentary on what's going on there.
Oh, great. Well, please let us. Please tell us all about that when it's up and going and as it progresses.
Will do. Definitely.
Great. Thank you very much, Max. All the best.
Ciao. Arrivederci.
Ciao. Thank you.